these are on both sides, so I'm going to be flipping them. This is the original is a monoprint. It's a printmaking technique. I don't think it's necessary for me to go through it unless people are curious about it. But basically, the image, this image is in Carrier printed in my portfolio in Carrier Pigeon, #1. And it's basically like a psychological power play between two human beings. It's about power and powerlessness. And again, that was my idea. It's always interesting for me to see if the ideas that I intend to put in the picture, if they communicate. A lot of times people come away with something different, which is fine. It's art, you know. And it's kind of like a tense and not very pleasant kind of interaction. That was the idea. Actually, not that it matters, but even though this guy's standing up, he's the one who's in a powerless position. Sometimes people see it the opposite way. And it's about human cruelty also, but in kind of a more subtle way. So it's just a mood picture. So that's that one. This is in Carrier Pigeon 1. This one, which is also a monoprint, actually this piece ran off of a personal experience I had. It's just the whole idea about death and loss. And what I had in mind, whether it came across or not, is these three people, these three guys, they had a loss. You know, like they suffered a loss, like a fourth person. And I was just thinking about just how sometimes when somebody passes, people who knew the person are actually become closer. You know, so it's kind of a sentimental piece. Actually, the name of the piece was At the Funeral, but I had him in this gallery on the West Coast, and she said I can't sell it with a name like that, so she changed the title to Love and Loss, which was fine, you know, because it's just like it's a picture. Really, the words. If the picture doesn't talk, you can talk to me blue in the face, and it doesn't mean anything. You know? And that's a monoprint. Thank you. This one also is a monoprint. Sorry, this is also a monoprint. This also was kind of a nasty social commentary. It was printed. You know, it was published. It was published with an article about the breakup of the power structure in the Soviet Union. I forgot the name of the article, but it was the whole idea of like, well, basically, this guy's putting the whammy on the viewer. You know, it's not fun having somebody pointing directly at you. Actually, this mask was an accident for whatever it's worth. You know, I did the illustration for the Phantom of the Opera when the play first came out, and I had to do the mask on the Phantom, and I had a hell of a time getting the mask right, because I wasn't used to doing that kind of fight with it, do it over and over. And when I finally got it right, it was kind of engraved in my head, and then I was finished with the job, and I just was so happy to be out from under the commission. I got into the studio, and I just started playing around, and this originally was just like a blob of ink. And I went out to get a cup of coffee. When I came back, I think those masks were in my head. It kind of looked like a mask, and then I just, you know, like let it go on its own, and it turned into a mask. And it wasn't part of the plan, and I actually think it made it a little bit of a kind of a nastier picture.
It's a very good picture.
Oh, thanks. Thank you. Very good. Yeah, it doesn't make a difference. This is the horse race, you know, like it was going to run you over. So it's just like the frantic finish of a horse race. That's a monoprint. This is a monoprint also. This piece, I used to go down to Coney Island and go to Asbury Park, and I used to like, I was born in the Bronx actually, so these kinds of characters laying around on the beach have a kind of a real familiarity to me. This is just, what I did is I photographed people. You know, photographing people is tricky business. People don't like having their pictures taken. You know, and I got good at it though. I kind of lay out on the beach and I get one of those cheapy cameras and stick it under my shirt and make like I was, you know, looking at the waves. And then you just kind of, if you wear sunglasses, you just go this way and go click, and then go this way, and then take that picture. Usually you miss half the time, but actually I got a lot of good photographic reference, and I also had some photos that I pulled out of the newspaper, like beach scenes, and I just did a series of people who looked like they could have been my uncle lying out on the beach. This piece is in the permanent collection of the Metropolitan Museum of Art. Go figure, you know, the original. Cool. For him. This is a G-clay, it's a reproduction. Most of these are not the original monoprints. I brought in a few of them. I've been doing this for a while, and it kind of seemed to be scattering around, but the original is about this size. It was just the whole idea of like, well, my Uncle Hick used to say, may he rest in peace. He used to say, I trust the cats and dogs on the street more than I trust human beings. That's what he would tell me when I was little. But that's not what the picture's about. The picture's about an intimate relationship between a human being and an animal. And also, I'm always doing these kind of nasty-looking guys, and it was a challenge for me to see if I could actually do an elegant-looking woman. Somebody said, how come you don't do women, you don't make pretty people? But it was really just the idea of like, it's not just that the horse belongs to her. It's like, and it's not a sexual thing either. It's about a deep intimacy between a human being and an animal. That's what I was trying to express, and I actually was proud of the piece. Somebody bought it on the West Coast, and I think it's in a kind of real high-end gay bar in Portland, Oregon. So if I ever want to see the original, at least I know where it is. This is actually was an illustration commission for a magazine called Stocks and Commodities magazine. I do usually once every issue, every 2 issues, I do an illustration job for them. So I know the art. I've been working with the art director for years, and she called me up and asked me if I could do an Olympic athlete. It's the stock market, but like in sports, somebody wins and somebody loses. Like that horse piece went in the stock magazine. You know, the horse that finishes first is the good stock, and the one that's left behind is the loser. They have me doing. I did a lot of boxing pieces that they printed, and actually Russ Potovsky, you know, Russ who created the magazine, does a lot of illustrations for Stocks and Commodities also. So we have the same client. She called me up and she said she wanted me to do an Olympic athlete in the act of throwing the slingshot. Now I do like sports, but I didn't know there was an Olympic event called the slingshot. No, I knew there was javelin and discus and shot put. I never heard. I said, "There's no such a thing as a slingshot," and she needed it done like immediately. And I said, like, well, how do I know what it looks like? And she said, well, just look at Rembrandt's etching of David slaying Goliath, basically. But I ran to Barnes & Noble and found a book on the Olympics, and I actually did find that there is an Olympic event called the slingshot, and that's just tried to capture the action and stuff. Like, that's all. You know, so this was printed. It's a monoprint. That one. I have a couple of them. Actually, I want to show you this one. This is an original monoprint. You know, it's funny. The G-clays, which are reproductions, I'm putting in plastic to protect them. And the originals I'm carrying around like this. But this actually, you can tell it's an original print. Well, it definitely was an etching, but with a monoprint because there's an embossment. You can see the impression is punched into the paper, physically punched into the paper. This piece, actually, this was a couple of books I did that I was very proud of. They were actually on the African American experience, and they were called Wisdom of the Word Faith and Wisdom of the Word Love. And they had, each one had about 10 sermons by the great African American ministers like Martin Luther King and Anna Clay Powell. So I got to do an illustration for each one. And this particular gentleman is being tempted to do bad things by evil forces, and he's trying to fight against his instincts to do bad things. And actually, they're beautiful books. They're about how, through religion used in a healthy way, Christian religion, they help people to pull themselves up by the bootstraps. And I was really honored to do these illustrations. There was 10 illustrations in each one of the books. So that's this guy. That's a monoprint. That's the Bad Temptation. This is another monoprint. Again, getting back to, sorry. people lying out on the beach from all kinds of crazy angles. I just find the perspective really interesting. I don't know if you've tried to draw, but these kinds of angles are incredibly difficult to draw. Actually, well, I don't want to go there, but and in order to get these right, I had to do them over many, many times and do many, many bad ones. But like dynamic perspective, just learning to draw a figure in proportion is hard enough, but then to do it with an elegance, it goes on to another level. And then when you start dealing with these like crazy angles, I did a lot of bad ones. A lot of times I had to do 10 or 20 bad ones to get a good one, but these were more like a technical challenge. So the ones that worked, I showed people, and all the lousy, horrible ones in my studio, I'm not going to show you. But that's what that is. I'll show you two other things. You know, this is an etching. I make etchings also. That was poor old Willie Loman for Death of a Salesman. This was a book jacket and poster. Yeah, you know what happened to Will. He let life get the better of him, or life got the better of him. And this was an etching. This went along with it. This was Hamlet, which I'm not really happy with, but you know, to be or not to be. So basically, these were posters, commission posters. And if you are curious just about the reproduction process.
Are those etchings, Bruce?
Those are etchings. And I have the original etching. You know, things when they're reproduced, I've done a lot of illustration in my life. And I like illustration. But you can see the colors change. And when things get blown up or reduced, if they're printed with quality reproduction, they hold up really, really well. But if the quality isn't top-notch, they really suffer. But something like this that's coated stock, I mean, these were for sale. I think they were $20 or $25 a poster. So, you know, if they do them nice, I actually think they look better in reproduction than the originals. That's an etching. You can see the embossment. Piece of metal that's punched into the paper. If anybody ever tells you it's an original etching, if they have, say, an original Rembrandt, one of the first things you look for is flip it upside down and see if you can see the embossment. If there's no embossment, it's a reproduction. And then I'll just quickly show you a couple of etchings, and then we'll call it. Actually, I did a lot of things with jazz musicians. This is obviously not the original. This one also is floating around someplace on the West Coast. The size of this is the size of the large monoprints, but that's a couple of guys, you know, playing music. Actually, I am proud of this piece. This, I have the original. This is a piece that, I don't mean to be doing this. I won a silver medal at the Society of Illustrators for this piece. It's a little hard to see. It's the original is huge, but it was on the horrendous conditions with the slave trade. So they wanted me to capture what it was like being jammed into, you know, like these horrifying, you know, so I don't know if you can see that, but that's me over there smiling. All these poor people are suffering here. But yeah, if you want to. I like doing animals, so these are rhinoceroses. They're all monoprints. And as far as the etchings go, I like music. This guy's a jazz musician. This guy's like some of the people I used to see down on the Lower East Side who were inebriated, but if you listen to them, they were actually kind of brilliant. I used to listen to them. Some of those guys are amazing. Again, jazz music. I like animals. I grew up in the Bronx. My grandfather used to take me to the Bronx Zoo. So I love looking at the animals. And this is another jazz musician piece. Elephants. These are etchings again. I'll tell you something funny about the etchings. I used to do the jazz musicians all in black and white. And I used to occasionally sell one here and there. Actually, you know, is there a gallery here called the H&M Gallery? I think it was on 120. I used to have my stuff in the gallery on 125th Street. Doesn't matter. He took these. But I'd sell them occasionally, and then one of the dealers said, you know, if you change the color to red, you'll sell more of them. You know, jazz is hot. You know, so these are a little dull down, but I did bump them up and gave them some burgundy, and they did sell better. So, okay, that's basically it. I, you know, move forward. Okay, thank you very much.